I'm not the type of person who plans too far ahead. My name is Bob Miller, and I'm more of a reactionary guy. So when I saw my wife's blue Mercedes sedan pull into the Marriott, I got up from my spot on the park bench across the street and started walking toward her. She was supposed to be at her sister's house, which was about 30 miles away. As I walked, I noticed an SUV pull up next to her car. It caught my attention not because it was flashy, but because it had a University of Pennsylvania sticker and a license plate that read PSU 100. Since we were in Virginia, both were noticeable. The car belonged to Max Bearer, a colleague of mine from HMD Consulting. He stepped out, and my wife, Joyce, walked over to him. They held hands and walked toward the main entrance. I took a detour to the side entrance, went inside, and saw them at the front desk. I walked past them and stopped near the elevator lobby. I leaned against the wall at the far end behind a potted plant and waited. This hotel didn't have any rooms on the first floor, and the restaurant was behind the lobby. If they were dining, I'd be able to see them walk by, but they weren't. The two of them, hand in hand, turned the corner, clearly lost in each other. Max pressed the elevator button and wrapped his arm around Joyce. The elevator dinged and opened, and the two of them stepped inside. I quickly got up, waved my hand between the doors to prevent them from closing. Imagine their surprise when I stepped inside just before the door shut. "What floor?" I asked calmly. Max looked confused. "That's me." "How are you?" he said, still puzzled. I remained polite. No one had pressed a button yet, so I reached over and hit the button for the 6th floor, the top floor. The doors closed, and Joyce didn't say a word. I looked at both of them. "I assume you're headed upstairs for some fun?" There was no response. Joyce looked down, and I could see she was quietly crying. The elevator began to ascend. Max kept glancing at the walls, but I knew he was looking at me. I stepped closer, placed my left forearm under his chin, and pushed him against the elevator wall by his neck. I applied pressure, and though he jerked, he couldn't escape. After a few seconds, I used my knee to hit him in the groin. He didn't have a chance to defend himself. A loud, painful ouch escaped his lips. Joyce screamed, "Stop! Stop, Bob!" She began pushing my shoulder, trying to get me to let go. I slapped Max's knee again. "Every time you touch me, I'm going to hurt the boy in love," I warned. Joyce stepped back, her face full of fear. "Let him go, Bob. We can talk about this." Max's head was resting on my arm, and he had passed out. I let him slump to the floor. The elevator reached the 6th floor, and the doors opened with a soft ding. "Is this your floor?" I asked Joyce politely. Again, she didn't respond. I pressed the 2 button to go back down, and the doors shut. She stared at me wide-eyed, clearly horrified. "Maybe you can explain why you're here and not at Milda's house?" "I know why," I said, my voice calm. "I don't need an explanation." She whispered, "You hurt him." Tears were streaming down her face, smearing her makeup. "Pity," I added. "But I didn't kill him." Her lips trembled. "I didn't kill him either," she muttered. "Neither will I responded evenly. I pressed the button for the 2nd floor. The elevator doors opened, and we were on the 2nd floor. There was no one in the hallway. I lifted Max over my shoulder and grabbed Joyce's hand. I led her down the hall to room 210. I pointed, and she opened the door. I pushed it open, dragging her inside and throwing Max onto one of the beds. "Now that we have some privacy, anything can happen. Do you understand?" "Yes, Bob," she said, looking guilty. "I'm sorry. I got carried away, but nothing happened. I swear it was supposed to be the first time." "Don't touch him again," I warned. "You'll get in trouble. You could lose your job." "I don't believe anything you say, and I don't care," I told her. "You've already ruined him. He's going to die. Maybe you will too." "Bobby, I swear on my life," she started. Max groaned. "Oh, please don't." I filled a glass with water from the sink, splashed it on his face, and he hissed. His eyes fluttered open, then closed again as he groaned. "What's the matter, Max?" I asked. "Not feeling so good? Still want a taste of my wife?" "I'm sorry," he said weakly. "She's, hot." "Max," I said sternly, "tell me everything that happened." Don't lie. I know enough to send you here, and if you lie, I will make sure you regret it. I turned to Joyce. Shut up. One word, and I'll knock you out. She stayed silent. I turned back to Max. One lie, and it's over for you. He hesitated, then spoke. I was infatuated with her when we met at your summer party. I tried to hit on her. She pushed me away, but I thought she seemed interested. I kept trying. She started flirting. When did you first hook up? I asked firmly. Never, he said quickly. It wasn't like that. Just a few dances. Just once in my car. We drove to a lookout. It was over quickly. I'm sorry. Joyce took a step back, stunned. She started crying again. Full on this time. So, Max, I said, I guess I'm going to have to tell your wife about this. There's no other choice. Maybe you and I can both get divorce lawyers. Bob, I have kids, Joyce sobbed. Can't we just forget about this? No, I replied. It's going to come up in the divorce anyway. We can make it work, she said. We can have a long, happy marriage, kids, and all that. I ruined everything. I'm not going to be with you anymore, Joyce. I'll just leave you alone. I turned to Max. Sleep with her if you want. She's not my wife anymore. I walked out of the room. They didn't follow. I crossed the street and sat back down on the bench where I'd first seen Joyce's car. I had arrived before my appointment time. Soon after, Marion Bayer walked over and sat next to me. I kissed her. We got up and walked toward the Holiday Inn, which was behind us. Along the way, we started talking. You know, I just saw our spouses head to the Marriott, I said, chuckling. What did you do? She asked, clearly curious. I explained to her what had just happened between me, my wife, and her husband. Well, she said, taking my hand, we can use the same lawyer. And so they did. Marion squeezed my hand as we walked into the Holiday Inn lobby. There was a strange comfort in the fact that we had both just watched our marriages disintegrate in real time. She didn't seem devastated, though. More resigned, as if she had been expecting this. You don't seem too surprised, I said, glancing at her. She gave a sad smile. I've had my suspicions about Max for a while. Late-night work calls, unexplained trips. But I never thought it would be with your wife. She let out a small, bitter laugh. Guess we both got played. Guess so, I muttered. We checked into a room, separate beds, of course. Neither of us was in the mood for anything beyond company and shared misery. I grabbed a small bottle of whiskey from the minibar, poured 2 glasses, and handed her one. To the end of bad marriages, I said, raising mine. She clinked her glass against mine. And to whatever comes next. After a few minutes of silence, Marion spoke again, her voice softer. So, what's your plan? I exhaled. Divorce, obviously. Probably a nasty one. I want nothing to do with Joyce after this. She nodded. Same. I don't care what Max says. This wasn't just some mistake. He made his choice. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of everything settling in. My mind raced with the possibilities, lawyers, settlements, who would take what, and, more importantly, how I would move forward. Then Marianne surprised me. Bob, what if we made this easier on each other? I looked at her, confused. What do you mean? She hesitated, then shrugged. We're in the same situation. What if we worked together? Handled the divorce side by side? Supported each other? I mean, we don't have to figure it all out right now. But maybe this doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world. I stared at her for a moment, then laughed. A genuine, tired laugh. Are you suggesting we team up? She smiled. Yeah. Why not? I thought about it. It wasn't the craziest idea. In a way, it made sense. All right, I said, holding out my hand. Partners. She took it. Partners. And just like that, what started as a day of betrayal turned into something else entirely. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning of something new.